Content is king. That moniker is true in many, many situations, and it's extremely important to keep in mind in the follow-up messages to our virtual sales conversations. In this episode of Virtual Selling Concrete Results, I'm building off of the last episode where I laid out the timing and timeline for your follow-up messages. Now it's time to talk content of those messages. And I'm going to share with you 2 don'ts and 4 components to include in your follow-up messages. Let's set the stage. You've had a productive sales conversation with your buyers virtually, or it could be in person. And then there was no firm commitment to a timing or what's going to happen next. And you start the mental debate of should I, shouldn't I? How many times should I follow up? What should I say? Am I going to look desperate? Am I going to look too aggressive and turn them off? So I covered the timing and timeline again. Let's talk about what to include in the messaging so that you don't come off as desperate or too aggressive. So first is the don'ts. And the don'ts are after that message, don't start the I'm just checking in channel. I'm just checking into, I'm just checking in for, I'm checking in to see if you've made a decision. I'm checking to see if you have any more questions. I'm checking to see if we should talk again. That connotation of checking in can put an adult into a icky moment where they feel they're being checked up on. So I suggest skipping the checking in. The second don't is to not look for decisions after time has passed. So depending on what you're selling and the timing of how that works, we want to make sure that we don't look for decisions too far after the conversation that we've had. Why is that? Because we have lost the emotional connection. We have lost their engagement by that time. And so when we start looking for a decision, they're not in that mindset of feeling good about you and the conversation and the solution that you have. And so after some time has passed in your follow-ups, and I would say after probably the 4th follow-up, we shouldn't ask for a decision. Instead, we should ask for re-engagement and another conversation. Now, let's talk about the 4 components to include in your follow-up messages. After a good greeting, the first component should include a connection or reminder back to the problem, opportunity, want, or need. We call that a pawn that you discussed, and the impact of that pawn to them, whether it is something that they want to avoid or something they're leaning in toward. So what is the rewards they're looking for with a solution to the pawn, or what is the risk that they're trying to avoid by solving that? The connection is important. The second component to include in your follow-up messages is giving something of value. And I know people say that all the time. What does it mean? Well, something of value can be an insight that you have after talking with them and thinking about their situation. It could be a link to something online, an article that you've seen, a white paper. Maybe it's yours, maybe it's somebody else's. It could be including a document, an overview of something, a white paper, an infographic. And that could be something about the pawn and impact, or it could be something else personal that you heard about them. For example, right now, so many people are working from home, or they are also homeschooling. And maybe that's something that you have some insight on that you could provide, but give them something of value. That's the second component. The third component then is a clear call to action, clear and specific. So it's not giving them 5 different things to do. It's giving them 1 action to take, maybe 2 at most. And so that action could be scheduling time, could be sending you something, could be phoning you back, could be being somewhere at a certain time where you're going to connect. So be clear on your call to action for them. And then the 4th component, which is one that I don't think is included very often, and that is to set the expectation and make a commitment for what you're doing next. It does a couple of things. It shows you're in it for the long run. It shows that you're leading this process to help them make a good decision. And it's giving a commitment on your end. So it could be letting them know that if you don't hear from them, they can expect blank. They're going to expect what? You're mailing them something, you're calling them on a certain date, you're sending them a video, you're sending them a text, you are sending them another email. Let them know specifically what you're doing by when. And then, of course, you need to take action as promised. So those are the 4 components. Here's what they can sound like in an email. Greetings, Marty. I hope you enjoyed the Packer game yesterday. I'm from Wisconsin, so I could say something like that to somebody else from Wisconsin. That's my greeting. Now, component number 1. I was thinking about our conversation and how important it was for you to get a handle on your debt so that you can start saving for your next home. And that was important to you because you are spending a lot of time trying to figure it out on your own, and it's causing stress between you and Carol. Situation pawn and the impact. Second component then, giving something of value. To give you some more information that is helpful as you're thinking about your options for this, I've attached a white paper that speaks directly to the same situation. I think you and Carol will both enjoy it and find it helpful. Now, the third component, what am I asking? Marty, I suggest you, Carol, and I have another conversation to talk about your timing for getting on track with this. You can use this calendar link to easily schedule a time. Clear call to action. Please look for a time between November 5th and November 15th that will work for both of you. If you don't find a time that works with that, shoot me over some options and I'll accommodate you. And then the fourth component. If I don't see that calendar invite come through, I will reach out to you again by telephone on Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. to get it scheduled. I look forward to our next conversation. Have a great day. That's the 4 components in email. Now, how do we adjust those, whether it's a voice message, whether it is a text, whether it is a video, whether it's something we're sending in person? That's what I'll cover in the next episode. I'll see you then.